Welcome to Blue Notes, Shane, and congratulations on the new role. David Gonski said today he conducted an internal and external search for this role. What qualities do you bring to the role?
Well, I think a few things. Obviously, I know ANZ really well. I've worked here for 6.5 years. I was really an integral part of building out the Asia franchise and when I ran institutional. And then over the last 3 years as CFO, and in particular with a focus on strategy, I've really got a great exposure and experience of the whole group and how it all works. So I think that's really important, knowing the bank. And then I think secondly, my background has been pretty global. I've worked all over the place, but with a particular focus on Asia Pacific. And so you kind of bring those things together. I think there's a natural fit from my experience and capabilities and what the bank is looking for.
I think if you look through your CV, you've primarily been an institutional banker. What do you bring to the retail side of our business?
Look, I worked in a universal bank for most of my time, and you can't really work in a universal bank and only be focused on one part of it. So as a country head, and I've worked in the Middle East as a country head, I worked here in Australia and New Zealand as a country head, I actually had a lot of exposure around retail. In fact, I launched the first retail franchise for my previous bank in North Africa. And then, of course, when I worked at EFG, I was head of marketing. We were a big retail business, and I was really involved in rebranding and kind of launching the whole retail focus there as well. So, look, it's not the prime part of my experience, but it's certainly quite a major part.
You've been at ANZ for 6 years now. What do you think of as your key achievements during that period of time?
Well, again, looking at the two halves of my career, then the first 3 years as institutional, I think it was really proud of the fact that we really took the super regional idea and embedded it into the franchise and really worked on this idea of connectivity rather than just having kind of a series of banks, and Mike talks about flagpoles around Asia, but really driving value from that. And I was part of the team that did that, and I'm very proud of that. And the second part of my career is in finance. I think what we've done there is really built a greater discipline around capital and how do we think about that, but also getting the whole bank working together and focused on the returns of the whole rather than just individual businesses.
You've been a big supporter of the super regional strategy. What can we expect to see under your leadership at ANZ?
Look, I joined the bank because of really a couple of things. One, obviously because of Mike, and I was inspired by his vision for the group, and of course the super regional strategy. I mean, if you think about it, when in the last probably 100 years, no bank's really attempted to do this on the scale that we have, and so that was really inspiring. And I wanted to be part of the team that had that kind of bold ambition and delivery. So that was really important to me. And so what you can expect to see is more of that. I believe passionately in the idea and the concept. Yes, we've got some work to do in terms of delivery, but that's going to be an evolution rather than a revolution. And so it's more of the same around the super regional strategy.
I know one of your priorities over the next few days is to get around and meet as many people as you can. What should we know about your management style?
Well, I like getting around and meeting lots of people, so that's the first thing. I mean, I guess it's the old kind of management by walking around. Yeah. I like that. I'm relatively informal, and as I say, I really like to kind of build a network and kind of get a sense of what's going on, both internally, that's really important with our people, but also externally, and whether that's with customers or other stakeholders, just kind of getting a sense of that. I would suggest that I'm probably more of a delegator. I focus a lot on building the right team and making sure that we get the team really collaborating and working together, and then letting them deliver. Now,
I hope I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag here, but I think you're probably one of the more reserved members of management board, if I can put it that way. But I often see you around town on the tram and so on. What should we know about you as a person?
I have a young family, and so my time's really spent around that. I do probably what lots of dads do in Australia. I spend my weekend running a taxi service for my daughter, going to piano lessons and swimming and things like that. We recently bought an old house. I fancy myself as a bit of a renovator. My dad was a builder, grew up around lots of tools and that. So I'm, spend a lot of time at Bunnings, frankly, and have this fantasy that I can do a little bit of it myself. So, we're pretty much a family that sticks at home and does those kind of pretty normal things.
Okay, well, congratulations, Shane, and thanks for joining Blue Notes.
Thank you.